Ian Fisher, American Standards. Alright. This would be from Invasions. Apparently, this would be album number. Since I've reviewed his albums, this would be the third one I've reviewed. Proper. For those who are wondering more about him, I would recommend you try to link. Actually, I normally would wait to plug it, but link in the description below to my Facebook page for this channel. Apparently, before I figured out how to actually get these to upload to my channel, I've did a bunch of reviews, and Nero, his earlier album, was one of them. This, where is it at? Come here, Nero. This one here, I reviewed. You should also check out another album I did review, which I... Wait, something's missing. Hold on a second. There we are. Yeah, this album. Idle Hands. I don't even have to pull it out. Which was the first one I did on the channel. I wanted to like it more than I did. It grew on me eventually, and I might have had it on the list, but I don't remember if it wound up just honorable mentions. But honestly, since Nero, and when I try to show my dad his stuff, during a time when I had to go up north with him or something for a Thanksgiving thing, it didn't go over well with him, and I've become leery about how I was going to go about talking about his music ever since. And I was hoping for this album to give me a reason that I could feel like I could, or at least do something without having to go as far as to basically say what I've always said in those past reviews, that sadly I still will have to say, man. Hold on a second. Okay, it's still in there. I was worried. I thought I lost it in there, and it's hard to find this album, guys. But you need to give it a shot. It's one of his earlier stuff, and yes, it has some of his... It's part of the Webster University days, the college years of his time, or I think at this point his political science days. Because he had been he majored in his college of political science, and it affected which he was taught to have one because it would help him with his songwriting, not knowing that political science in and of itself is also kind of a philosophy in points that can get wrapped up in your head in the same sense as like Christian Science. And I think that's what happened to him in his college days, especially given that he was born and raised in a very predominantly Catholic town that's sort of pro-unionish, very somewhat democratic, but primarily, but still kind of more lenient in the right, as more right-wing, despite being democratic, which usually leans left. If we're getting political about things, and I'm sorry if that's what it really happens, but that's what it kind of led. And in this record, you can kind of tell he's a little more lenient left, especially if you've seen the music video for the title track of this album, American Standards. And Ian was nice himself. Since I've known him, he is also the reason for why I started picking up guitar, or at least why I was able to maintain picking up guitar. Granted, everything else that has been sucky ever since has been really on my own roadblocks, to be honest with you, because, or at least post when I turned 23, which is when I think I got my first bass. Sorry, I'm talking a little me on him, because this is a little personal with me, because I know this man. And which is why it's going to be hard for me to say I'm a professional in general. And I can't say that I am, and I was trying to get someone, I asked him to do this for me, for someone who is more of a professional. Let me pull him up here. And he gave me the lyrics, because it's not really in any of the other things, unfortunately. So I have this message, and each one he was also nice to tell me the key, actual key, with where he put the capos on the frets, for all you musicians out there. And he also said he's planning on doing the used chords book on it for you, with it for Album America Standards. The song maybe a little more, which is prior to the song I put out here, which is honestly one of my favorites on the record that still get me a little bit, which is more just on one of his usual love songs. Real typical love songs. Apparently, using the key of F, the key of the song is essentially in F sharp. I think it's sharper. Yeah, it's sharp. F sharp major, with the capo on the 6th fret. With the verses are F F C E7, chorus A minor F C E minor, bridge G A minor F D minor twice, and then G, or at least G twice or something out in the bridge. Stations more in B, in the key of B major with the 3rd capo. I love that he gave me all these things and told me the lyrics itself. The first, and yeah, like I said, well, I don't know if I could say that. I think he does a little bit more, and I feel like that he has reached some sense of maturity in his songwriting, up a lot more than he had in before, up to a point. And this album, I feel he's bringing in a little bit more his more neo-folk and indie folk elements, Americana elements, while still maintaining the more alt-country, neo-traditionalistic sense of alt-country that he's pushing forward in since Nero. And there are moments where he rocks out, and in the case of songs like One Foot, he actually gets kind of funky. It's a bit funky in a way with this guitars. AAA Station. AAA Station being a song that's supposed to be more so. I love that he told me all this stuff, which is great. I even tried sending this to freaking Spectrum Pulse to no avail, and it sounded like he was like, yeah, it's got to be in a poll or something. I'm like, well, so basically there's no fucking way this album's ever going to get reviewed, because no one else but me probably knows about this. Unless I told someone else who is a reviewer in the space to talk about it. I don't know. Because no one else is going to talk about this record but me, and that's what sucks. That's why I took my time to do this record, and I wanted to do this right. I hope I did you some service with it, Ian, because I feel like of these past 3 records, this definitely is a better and more interesting jumping on point to get into his stuff. For me. And there are some moments where he does have some segue-ish stuff. One that's sort of builds into One Foot. That isn't bad. It's just him and an acoustic. And then it does get into the more... it's just sort of him just talking the chorus. And it's kind of in a more lo-fi, very old school kind of... Like a lot of his inflections, of course, are obviously considered to be Bob Dylan. But you also hear his other influences. He also used to be a MySpace artist, which you'll find some of the stuff he's put out, but mostly you'll find Candles for Elvis, which honestly, for what it is in the context of this album, this version that's on here is fine. I prefer what he wound up eventually doing on his self-titled EP. And somehow, in researching, I finally found out that his time in a band that's mostly known in Vienna, Austria, and maybe Germany, or at least within those particular countries that neighbor each other, from that to Germany and all that. Is his band Nowhere Train, which is most of their songs I think are in German, except for 9 to 5, which I think the straight up stripped down acoustic version that most of his Pawn Heart stuff is, which came out the same year as this, but yet he was able to put out something on his Bandcamp. I've yet to see him do something for this one. I really feel like he needs to, because I get the only reason if he is being reluctant because of the fact that his feelings towards St. Louis in comparison to what he put on here is way different than then, and I guess in that regard it ages seemingly poorly, but the music on the other hand says another story. And I felt like from everything that his his MySpace page cited as influences, you hear a lot more of them in this full band version, which I think he starts to utilize more in what he would do in Nowhere Train, at least in his earlier days. From what I gathered from the 9 to 5 cover on there, as opposed to what he did with To 9 to 5 on the EP. And like I said, this, if you want something of his all German, it's Koffer here. And there's some other songs. I think most of them are songs he's done that he wound up doing all in German. A lot of his classics here, I'm guessing. And he's on the label Stuff Star Records. Sometimes I have a hard time wearing this because my mother hates snakes. So... But yeah. Once I've stated before about this record, like AAA Station is one of his better tracks for sure. AAA Station don't play the hits. AAA Station don't give two shits. It's one of those moments where he's basically... On an endless drive through the end times of America, scanning through evangelists on the dial static. They gotta keep your eyes on what's ahead of you. I caught a familiar voice for a while coming in clear. AAA Station on the air. AAA Station on the air tonight. Let station take me for a ride. Station play what I don't know. AAA Station, won't you save my soul? He does have a little more inflection and with his style, and he does reference Woody Guthrie. I'm guessing I tried telling a few friends about it, and I showed him most of the stuff that's from American Standard and stuff, and they loved it. So if that means anything to you, Ian, if you're watching this, and just certain adventures he's done there. And his music, and the music video, which deals with a lot of political, mostly references to the previous election, not 2020, but the one prior to, where the jokes in that are from that video are actually a lot more present. Were present in 2016, unfortunately, but it only was relevant at that point because of it. And the only thing that works is that all the "Make America Great Again" hats he's using in the video are all literally the lyrics from the songs, and they come in. It's very clever in that regard, and I thought that was kind of cool. That part of the idea was kind of cool, and plus seeing some people actually kind of, or at least one person's been in particular that I know we both went to school with, was pretty cool in that video. Oh, Gunther, love you, man. He's a good dude. Despite what he comes across as in the video, that's just a character thing. He's actually a really cool dude if you get to know him. Trust me. Ian will attest to that. He's that as well. Pissing in American Standards between khaki men and truckers, an army of unwed mothers behind the counters. I was thinking on a third world, not knowing what I came back for. I would leave if I could find a door, but there is no way out anymore. Sleeping through American dreams, spending my money on gasoline, rest on alcohol and caffeine. It all sounded cooler on TV. Then I was saved by a son in the Eastern Air, saved by a son, and I don't know where it's from. Man, it could be anywhere. And I don't care if I'm wrong and I eastern sky saved by a song. I don't know why I waited for so long to try to fly away. It's made of trash getting bigger while they're rolling past. You know it was never built to last. Now we're nostalgic looking back. A highway in the sun on a game that we always won. It's a shame knowing it's done, but wouldn't it be hard if it just went on and on and on? But only for a moment, because as with every happy end, it can. The story is really over. And of course, going back through the rehashing the first chorus itself. But one of my favorites to me is "Be Thankful," or at least it feels like the one song I feel like I can at least on this record, without hesitation, easily recommend to my dad, or at least hope he gets something out of it. Drove the Blue Ridge Parkway in an early morning haze. Now the Smoky Mountains feel like they're a million miles away. Couldn't get through fast enough, but didn't have a clue exactly where we were headed to. Keeping us through eastern Tennessee, and Rocky Top was more than just a song that we could sing. I started waiting tables, and you worked behind the bar, and all the while we were reaching for the stars. Time goes, and the chorus itself is I think one of the catchier moments on this more softer moment. Time goes by while we're busy making plans, too busy dreaming to see the good things we had. Looking back, I'd do it all again, but be thankful. Showing this sense that, this sense of pride, but also this sort of but in a way that's more humble bragging, I guess. And we moved once, and we moved twice, and then we moved again, and ended up not far away from where it all began. Everything was changing, but if we'd only known when we were together, we were home. Time goes, and once again, the chorus itself, which good slide guitar. I love the main guitar, which I need to learn this one. This one I'm actually wanting to learn, with the intro and everything. Which that and the verses seem a little bit similar-ish. For the most, yeah. For the most part, they're, yeah. Just maybe not as much D minor as the intro and the chorus, at least. And then there is a little bit of a G, C, F, I guess, to end the verse to go into the chorus, I think. From what it seems, or at least let me see, it says all C and D minor chords played as bar chords. And the progression on this C chord on the second round in the first chorus, and on the sixth round in the second chorus. Then he goes into the songs, which those are mostly where we get to the singles with that and Be Thankful. And then there's the track One Foot in Front of the Other, which is a very interesting track. And he kind of does a weird old school, very 60s sounding, just folk style version of the chorus before going into the next song with a... Yeah, and it's very funky, and of course, leading to the tracks like... And it is definitely one of his more interesting tracks lyrically. Loved a man, not the kind of love you're thinking about. He was a brother to me, not me. Now, if I saw him in a crowd, I couldn't pick him out. One foot in front of the other can keep you from falling down. There are some things you can learn from your brother. There are some you only learn from yourself. Their names and how we got there, I forget the same way. The alchemy of turning strangers into friends is a science I practice but don't understand yet. And of course, a slightly more interesting format of the chorus: one foot in front of the other can keep you from falling down. There are some things you can learn from your brother, and some you can learn from yourself, like how falling can make you grow stronger, how loss can make you know what you really have, how nostalgia can make you grow fonder of things you had forgotten you had. And It Ain't Me is probably the one song where I can see lyrically some people getting a little about involving him talking about cheating and stuff. That's dealing with a certain form of relationship that's it may as well be done in it's almost similar to what he tried to do on Nero with Almost Darling, but the difference is this one I think he's trying to do Shaggy's Wasn't Me. The difference is the music itself and what he's doing compositionally is probably one of the best things on best instrumentals within the album, that it gets you through those types of things. And Melody in Nashville, which was apparently about a girl that he was seeing dancing and he didn't feel like, and was so enjoying herself, he didn't feel like disturbing her, even though it's sort of a weird pun between an actual a girl named Melody and the actual form of music that is form of music notation that is a melody. So which is even more which I didn't start until recently listening to it. I actually a couple weeks ago. And then It Ain't Me is, there's a bass walk up. Yeah, Winter Wind, I think it might be a little bit on the weaker side, a little bit. It's fun. It's not a bad song by any means, but it's fine. But it's the way he ends this record, I think, that allows it to have the repeat value it does, and probably might be a magnum opus and a possible classic in his discography and Ghosts at the Ryman. He has probably one of the few segues that come before this track. I think he actually does a good job. Also, Three Chords and the Truth is a good song too. Called Only Church with the God I Pray To, where he basically talks about, which he gets personal. He does these moments as well in his live set, so I was able to attach to this a little bit. These moments in the segues, or at least this one specifically, works much better than the other one that was essentially leading for One Foot. Because this one, I feel like if anyone who's seen a live show and how he sometimes tends to be storytelling a little bit in the songs before he plays them, though he's still kind of playing and getting into the groove of it, but while doing so, yeah, you can get a feel for it. And overall, Ghosts of Ryman is more his, like, basically saying how he's kind of fallen out of basically being of his roots in that in St. Genevieve, of a predominantly Catholic town. The only other thing that it seems that is his inheritance here in the St. Genevieve that he does embrace, especially given where he frequents at a lot in Europe, which is his more German heritage of this town, that it embraces, or at least the fact that this was a German territory prior to being a French-Canadian territory, for you history buffs. And he does this, and with Ghosts of Ryman is more about this particular church in place in Nashville that is, I guess, sort of like a church like his church for country that is explains where he basically explains everything before you get into the song. And in fact, it does help, actually. And anyone who's seen his live shows, you will get it. Like I said, again, and it's probably one of the better songs where he's referencing a lot of other artists. It's the bouncers on Broadway are singing along to a southern rock version of a Hank Williams song. And as I wonder where you are, I wonder, am I just another one in a long, long line of dreamers and fools kicking the can up Fifth Avenue, knocking on the door and filing the pews of the only church of the God I pray to. I am just a man, though I want to be more, like all my unfulfilled idols before. There's a star dying and one being born, but they all stick around this southern town. And they all are singing at the Ryman tonight, every ghost when they turn out the lights, and the people go home. Must be a sight to see all the ghosts at the Ryman tonight. Back behind Tootsie's, I swear that I saw the shadow of Johnny or Roy Acuff. Maybe just the smoke of Willie, or maybe I'm wrong. But I can't help but dream, or at least write a song for the giants whose shoulders I've been standing on, whose words from the borders of maps that I've drawn, who have made me a home, and that home is longing for home. And they all are singing at the Ryman tonight, every ghost when they turn out the lights, and the people go home. Oh, it must be a sight to see all the ghosts at the Ryman tonight. And also the way they do the music, and with the way they handle the synthesizers, like it's right, like in the way of it's kind of rising up to heaven, while also I think Ryan Carpenter, one of his many fellow collaborators that he usually works with throughout his solo stuff, as well as having with the said band I mentioned earlier, Nowhere Train, and so on and so forth, who also has some credibilities in a local outside venue for like musicals and stuff, the Muni. He's apparently done some work there. And he was a local fellow St. Louisan that he met at the Webster in St. Louis before he moved to Vienna, Austria, where the other section of the school to finish the rest of his class and majors, and I think is where he basically finished up all his other stuff, and that included songs. And I do feel like this one does. I feel if this is the first time you're listening to Ian, this is a great album to actually start with, really. Personally, to me, or at least I like it way more than what I was getting from his what happened with the previous two, or at least I'm starting to get more replay value out of them as a whole experience in comparison. But I can't, though I still from my own bias and nostalgia with him, still will tell you, stained fucking glass, if you look for me, I will show you it, because I don't think you'll find it at a live event with him. I'd love him to have put out more copies of this. And at least him give the caveat, like, my views on St. Louis have changed since this album, but the music itself still ages well. I wish he would do that, because I will tell you that myself about this album. And because it's the only way you're going to get this. Because you can still somehow, I think you can still in his live shows get the first album, Invasions. He also has like a demo that's, you can tell is a demo from his high school days. But we're not counting that as legit. So, but overall, it's, and I wouldn't, heck, even from what I got out of some country albums that did make my best of year list, I would preface it that those particular people that would review this, that have put those albums just about as high as I did, which were the recent Chris Stapleton and Jason Isbell albums, if you like them and put them at a higher score, I'm not going to expect or be bummed if you don't with this album. But I will say, for what it's of his albums that have come out recently, I think this one is definitely is worth your time, and I think can age a little more gracefully. It's fully at points. And he does have a little bit of a sense of humor and stuff, and trust me, I'd say if you're around most of the areas, particularly Nashville, I think he did do a show in Austin. One of these days he should. I'm wondering if he did an Austin City Limits show that did get taped. And if so, I need to find a way to see it and tape it, and put it on and see how he did on it. So I can recommend it and show it off to everybody. I love that dude. But overall, Ian, I'd say compared to what we did get from this album, I find this a step up. Regardless of my feelings of what I have said, in the sense that I'm worried that some other artists may not get people who are more into country than I would say, or even folk than I would say, I would, since I'm more on the rocker side, which is why I definitely still recommend that album, because he rocks. And he does have his moments like that he rocks the fuck out on this one. Like I said about It Ain't Me and all those moments, he does. So, which were nice. And I think even more, packs more of a punch, those tracks, in comparison to what he's done before. So overall, thumbs up. Maybe grows into one of these, into one of these. I don't know if I can say it's master class either just yet, but yeah, man. Good job, Ian. I like wanting to come back to this. I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to take my time about this. I hope that by the time you finally get a chance to see it, I hope you like it, man. What I had to say, at least. And yeah, Ian Fisher's American Standards. What did you think of this album? If you even had a chance to listen to it, leave a comment below, let me know. If you like this video, rock that like button with thrust if you must. Also, and also like and follow me on my Facebook page. And while you're at it, while you're there, type in, maybe see the search in there and see, maybe you'll find my stuff I did on Ian's review for Nero. Maybe for Nero, and then maybe you'll find his review I did for this album, Idle Hands, which is also something you should check out. I think he also had a deluxe edition for this, but it's mostly just acoustic versions of some of the songs from that record, mostly. So, also he did a lot of other stuff. I mean, also, I still would check out his other materials, his stuff back when he was doing the Ian... I mean, like, this one was also about his time in Vienna, which I think ages a little bit better, and he was still willing to want to promote it. I do think he needs to talk... I mean, if he's willing to do this and then talk about Pawn Heart, I mean, he needs to at least put... Like, that's why I'm a little bummed. It's like, why is he not... Because that album is something that I think is one of his hidden gems musically, and it's probably one of his most... embraces the more punk, alternative, and indie sides of his... indie rock sides of him. That, you know, you don't really see as much in his other solo material, at least. You do kind of in Nowhere Train, though. I think. Well, at least what little I've listened to Nowhere Train, I've been mostly focused on his solo stuff, but that's just me. Probably because most of the stuff that isn't his solo stuff is primarily in German, which I'm not fluent in, so... But if you are and you're curious about learning German and you want to just, like, listen to those records, screw it, you know, but go ahead, man. And there is a vinyl version that has an actual album cover. He just decided to start selling CD versions of it, which are nice. I do wish he would have put a little thing in here for this small little case for that. Anchor and Ships isn't bad, too. Which that one is definitely different vocally for him, and it's kind of reminds me of Ben Bateman's vocals lately, since I listened to what he's been putting out vocally. Which is why I got used to it a little bit more. And Tightrope is still a good song on that one for me. And I keep coming back to. But I do feel like he started bringing back his classic, more Bob Dylan-y nasal, that in a good way. But not the kind that Christian Harloff of Schmoes Know makes, of Schmoes Know, now Schmodown has made fun of, or anyways thing. But anyways, I've rambled on enough. If you like this, also hit the subscribe button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, all the other things. And as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you in the next video. Probably another Schmodown Rocks. Probably eventually another swim, or AKA So What I Miss. You know, long form multi-album review thing. That's why I wanted to do these separate, because these are local artists that local to me, that are like rooted locally in where I actually live, and just at least around St. Louis area, that or at least east side St. Louis, east side, not east side St. Louis, east side Missouri, that is worth your time. So there you go. Take care, y'all.